Hi, I'm Bran, and I love independent mid-2000 Christmas movies.
This is just unfair. I'm Dan. I despise independent mid-2000s Christmas movies.
I'm Alonso, and they make these in Canada? And this
is the Deck the Hallmark Podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast.
Brandon and friends host this podcast. We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, boy.
And
Happy birthday, dear Alonso.
how about that? The people, they're on their
Happy
feet.
birthday to
I mean,
you.
it was yesterday, but I will still accept. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll
of course.
We'll
we
still-
knew that.
We'll still celebrate.
That's right.
We love it. There's confetti. There's confetti just for
Oh,
you.
goody.
Did you do anything big for your birthday?
You're going to make fun of me.
Who,
There's
me?
no way I would do such a thing, Alonso.
Who's going to make fun of you? Is it me or Dan?
Either of you, possibly.
Okay.
I don't
I
know.
love this.
Dave and I went to the opera.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
And Dave goes to the opera on the regular. He is a fancy man.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I am generally not super enthusiastic about it, but this one happened to be a Spanish opera about the sort of legendary Spanish playwright Federico Garcia Lorca, who was a gay writer who was disappeared during the Spanish Civil War. And I'm like, okay, this sounds cool. I would like to check that out. So
What do you
we
mean he
went
was
to-
disappeared?
well, like he died under mysterious circumstances, and I think they still don't quite know where the body is.
Oh.
And this particular opera also heavily featured Kylie Minogue,
Yeah.
which we didn't know
Yeah.
until,
Although the role of Garcia Lorca is played by a female opera singer in what they call a trouser role.
a trouser roll.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. We're doing a diss list on trouser rolls soon. And
I'm looking forward to it because I know Brand's got so many opinions about opera. They're
get it,
scorching.
to get top 10 trouser rolls down to 10 for me
It's tough.
is,
Yeah.
but
And
someone
It's
has
the
to
You know
do
what's
it.
crazy
It's
is
the opposite problem of Christopher Nolan, where you have to like find 10 good movies.
That's
he
right,
actually
yeah,
made.
it's a classic problem. And TV Scotty, gracious enough to join us for he said, I want to do trouser rolls.
Yes. Yes.
That's what Scotty wanted to do. Yeah. Did you listen to the Nolan episode? Alonso?
I haven't yet, but
Oh,
I'm
how
sure I'll
dare
get
you.
to it at some point.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll have thoughts.
I did get Scott's early.
You get a shout out in that episode, by the way.
Oh, good.
Shout out.
Yeah, you did.
I did get Scott's early list, and I think he was thinking it's just top 10 Lacey Chabert movies where she wears trousers at some point.
that's the
A
problem.
little confusing.
Yeah.
We'll clear it up. It's trouser roll. But happy birthday, Alonso.
Thanks. Thank you.
We're so excited that you're here with us, and it is a fitting end to Mistletoe Mondays as we transition into
that's
Festive
right.
Fridays. And you got to pick any movie you wanted to for your birthday because it's a
That's what we
tradition
do
unlike
here.
any other.
I bullied you into it once, and now it's a tradition.
And so we're going to do Breakfast with Scott, which
Yes.
we were talking with Erin before this. She was asking, like, is it a Christmas movie? And I said, well, it's more of a Christmas movie than Sweethearts was.
Yes.
So
Well, there's that.
So there you go. And so I'll break it down, and then when we get back and talk hot take, we can talk more about your experience with this movie and why you chose
Sure.
it for your birthday. But let's talk Breakfast with Scott. It originally premiered on September 9th, 2007. And it went a little something like this. Wrong one.
Crickets. He's bored already, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
Bored already.
A group of kids come running into an arena excited because they've won a contest to meet the Toronto Maple
Leafs.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Did you say Maple Bowls? The Toronto Maple Bowls.
I don't know what happened.
That hockey
I
up
love
there.
a good maple bowl.
I
Yeah.
got stuck. That's the Toronto.
Toronto Maple Bowls. And the Maple Bowls, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Hockey Talk with
Have
Brand.
you
No
watched
one
your
knows.
eggs
I love
in your
hockey.
maple bowl?
I love hockey. I love
The
trousers.
Vancouver Canadiens.
So we meet star player Eric McNally, and he's kind of a jerk. He's out there, he's practicing, he's ignoring the children, and he takes a really bad hit and he collapses on the ice. Fast forward 5 years, Eric is no longer a professional hockey player. Rather, now he is a sports analyst and anchor talking about hockey, but not playing hockey. Those who can't teach. And we're introduced to his partner, Sam, who brings some surprising news. He has become the legal guardian of his brother's son, Scot.
No, brother's girlfriend's son.
Yes, that's it. Sorry. And Scott's mother has died, and Sam's brother is missing, and so Eric, strongly against taking Scot in, doesn't like kids. I don't know if you remember last time he was around a kid, his whole career ended, but Sam insists this is the right thing to do. So Scot arrives, and Eric is baffled by Scot. Scot doesn't like hockey, only likes musicals, and worst trait of them all, he sings Christmas songs in October, which really dated this movie.
Yeah.
Christmas in October now.
Yeah, how dare Scott?
How dare
We're
never.
deep in the season at this point.
Yeah. Needless to say, Scott is a bit different. And at school, Scott struggles to adjust. The kids make fun of him for crying during a sad poem or book in class. And at one point, he just throws himself into a pile of leaves until Eric shows up and literally picks him up. Eric is hiding the fact that he's gay from his colleagues and is worried that Scott, who tends to overshare and tell everybody that he meets that Eric is indeed gay, is going to come out if Scott is around for too long. Concerned that Scott is going to be bullied for the way that he acts, Eric tries to help him fit in. Obviously, it's Canada. That starts with hockey. If you're not playing hockey, you got something to be worried
Toronto
about.
Maple Balls.
That's exactly the Toronto Maple Balls. And so he signs him up for hockey, and Scott starts hanging out with this neighborhood kid who's real mean, but in an effort to fit in, things kind of go sideways. And during the first game, Scott ends up attacking his own bully, who is actually a real friend to him, for tattling on his buddy for stealing the skates. And Eric pulls him out of the game, and Scott finally tells him that he never wanted to play hockey in the first place. Then Scott's dad, Billy, ends up showing up from Brazil, saying that he wants Scott to come back with him. And Eric and Sam, they're not sure how to feel about this, and they decide, well, I guess we should throw Scott a Christmas-themed going-away party, because he doesn't love anything more than he loves Christmas. And Eric lets Scott wear whatever he wants to celebrate the holiday. And they're furious when Billy shows up with a fiance that they didn't know about at all. During the party, tensions rise, and they get into a big fight. When Scott comes down, he's going to sing some Christmas songs, but he looks out and he sees that Billy has brought this woman with him, and he's confused and he's hurt. He's upset that Billy didn't even notice how much he's grown. Eric steps in and he delivers a heartfelt speech about how he would have noticed that he had grown, and he shows just how much he has come to care for Scott. And Scott tells Billy that he wants to stay with Eric and Sam, and at first Billy refuses, but eventually he agrees. And that cuts to Scott, Eric, and Sam enjoying a joyful, heartfelt Christmas together. And that, my friends, was Breakfast with Scott.
We did it.
We did do it. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll break this movie down here on
Deck
Deck
the
the Hallmark. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We're talking Breakfast with Scott for Alonso's birthday today. Very excited to break this one down. A movie that I was not familiar with. A movie from 2007. Let's share our thoughts on it. I will start with you, Alonso. Obviously, you picked this movie for your birthday, so I imagine that is because you like it. But share with the listeners and us why you picked this for your birthday and then your thoughts on the movie.
Sure. Well, yeah, I originally saw this movie when it was new. I think it was our opening night film at Outfest that year, I want to say. I remember it was definitely a prominently placed film. And yeah, I've always found it really charming. I love the central conceit of it. I love the idea that you can be an adult who has sort of compartmentalized your queerness because, you were in pro athletics and now you're in sort of sports journalism or whatever. And that this kid who has no filter whatsoever, like suddenly becomes this thing that you are first terrified of, and then maybe trying to kind of mold to follow your footsteps, and then you realize that maybe your footsteps aren't that great, and that the kid should just be the kid. So yeah, I find this movie really moving and funny, and I rewatched it again recently, and I thought Bran would love this, and I thought Dan would like it too. But I like there's something about this kid and the fact that when he is sort of at his most emotionally vulnerable, that his go-to is Christmas music. I thought, like I responded to that. I thought Bran would. So I hope you all like it. I do love this movie.
Bran hated it.
No, you know me well, Alonso. I did love this movie. Obviously, the Christmas of it all, and the Christmas being the thing that kind of brings him comfort in the midst of really tough times. I felt seen, but I also felt the overall story to be really beautiful, and to see Tom Cavanaugh, who we've seen before in Hallmark movies, and we love him among other things, of course, but he's really great in this movie, and kind of showing this, like he's had to put up so many walls in his life, and to see this kid and him kind of putting up walls for this kid and realizing that does more harm than it does good was a really beautiful story. And the movie absolutely worked on me, and I would watch it again. Absolutely. Dano?
Did you, sorry, real quick, did you recognize the actor who played Sam?
I did not.
We just saw him in Christmas Eve in Miller's Point. He's the dad
Shankman.
who's Ben Shankman. He's the dad who's driving the family there at the beginning of the movie.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
How about that?
This movie's really great. I am not shocked American audiences didn't get to see this movie in 2007. That is not surprising to me, but it's kind of like a minor masterpiece. Like it's this it doesn't like try to be anything more than what it is, but because of when it was made and what it pertains, what it pertains, it's really, really special. I think, the big centerpiece of this movie that I loved, the two things that I really loved is, number one, Tom Cavanaugh, who is, an out gay man, unless he's at work, when he knows that is a negative for him, or he thinks it's a negative for him.
Right.
He looks at this kid and his perceived queerness, and he basically thinks it's a blight, thinks it's a negative. It's a literal negative. And he just doesn't want it for him. And so him learning about his own self through this kid is great. But the thing that I also love that I think is universally amazing is, this movie never bends to sentimentality. It never becomes like super mushy, saccharine, giant big music swelling and giant speeches. It's a movie where the mountain that is moved is this guy who has complete control, knows who he is, doesn't want to change who he is, just wants to control who he is. The mountain that moves there is this guy becomes a guy that goes, what it means to parent is to choose your kid. That's it. That's it. That's what it means. It's, preferring your kid. And sometimes that's hard because preferring your kid means doing things that the kids, are not going to like, right? Like you take your kids to get their shots because it's good, not because they love to get them, right? But choosing your kid is hard and it's difficult and it makes you uncomfortable and it exposes you and it makes you vulnerable. And that Tom Cavanaugh's transformation in that department, I think, is really impressive in this movie. So this movie isn't trying to be some big, grand, swelling, emotional picture. It's trying to be a movie about the small mountains that we need to move in our life. And I think it does so really, really well. And I liked everybody involved with it.
Let's get to all the feels. It's where we talk about what in this movie gave us feels, Alonso.
Yeah, I mean, really building off what Dan said, I think this is a movie that isn't giving you a lot of big moments, but I do get like choked up every time Eric has a speech at the end of like, I would notice, I would see you,
Yeah.
I think that's just gorgeous. I love Scott's just complete embrace of who he is from the get-go, and other kids may have a problem with it. But like, he is just so much himself. And, did my dad try to make me play soccer when I was 6 years old? Was I kicked off the team for sitting down and drawing in the dirt during the first game? Yes to both. But I think, but ultimately I think I was supported and acknowledged by my family, and even though I didn't know what was going on, but they knew, I'm sure. And so yeah, I love the compassion this movie has for its characters. Just as a fun side note, I usually in Hallmark movies I like to point out the people who used to be on Degrassi. There's a kid in this movie who would later be on Degrassi.
Oh, it's a Degrassi prequel.
Yeah, the mean hockey kid neighbor would later be on that show. Yeah, and I also like the sense of community that these guys have clearly built, like the lady next door who's like, talks about all the stuff that they did for her when her husband died, and so now she's going to come in and create this bedroom for Scott, which neither of them have put any kind of thought into. This is a nice warm hug of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overarching wrestle that Eric has in this movie, while he's kind of like learning stuff about himself through Scott, there are a few greater teachers in life than raising a child, because you learn so much about yourself along the way. And to see Eric, Tom does such a great job with his facial expressions in this movie, and there are times where he obviously seems annoyed. There's times where he seems amused. There's times where you see kind of like a little aha moment for him, just in his eyes, or the way that he responds, not with his words, but just through his facial reactions. And so I just thought that the arc of him throughout this movie, where you can kind of see the realization, especially post the hockey game, it was really fun to watch, and also just really well done by old Tom Cavanaugh. He might have a future.
You think he's going to work out?
I don't know.
Wow.
We'll see.
Interesting. That's a hot take, bro.
I know.
Yeah, mine is the character of Scott. They never make Scott a charity case. They make him a character with his own agency, who is a precocious child, but also is very confident in who he is. And I love that. Even in the scenes where he's describing his mom and a drug overdose, which are really hard scenes, you obviously empathize with the kid because he's a kid, and you just want the kid to be safe and loved and be somewhere where he knows that he's good. But the kid never doubts that he's good. That's the beauty of this story is I think that the kid, the goal for, I would hope all parents, for me as a parent, I just want my kids to do something that they love to do and know that they're loved because of who they are, not because of what they do. And this kid is searching for someone to love him for who he is. Not, there's not scenes in this movie where he goes and he just gets bullied all day and then cries in a corner. That's not what this movie is. It isn't an after school special. It very much is a character that you can empathize with and that you can pull for. And I looked this guy up, but he doesn't really do much. Doesn't he own?
He's an entrepreneur.
He's
now
an entrepreneur.
He has a snack company, a healthy snack company.
Yeah, good for him. But he was great. I thought the way that character was drawn and acted was really
good job. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to the wait, what, and the what the Hallmark here on Deck the Hallmark. Welcome back to the Alonso birthday party special. Deck the Hallmark. We're talking Breakfast with Scott, the 2007 flick. Let's get to the way what's. Things in this movie that made us go way what. I'll start with you, Alonso.
Yeah, I don't have a ton. I think most of them revolve around Billy. His whole deal is that he is in South America and he's kind of a ne'er-do-well, but he was involved with Scott's mom, but they weren't married, but somehow he's the guardian, and then he wants to kind of take the kid back at the end, and maybe just for the money, but then he gets this new fiance and she's wealthy. I don't think they quite pick a lane for him. He does seem to be, a mess no matter what, but I wasn't quite sure how much of a mess, and I also wasn't sure at what point does his feeling like he has a right to be Scott's guardian become incredibly tenuous, but because it seems like he's barely been there for him up until now, whereas these guys have provided him a very sort of stable, loving home and stuff. So I don't know that the movie quite wraps its arms around what this character is supposed to be and what function he serves and how much of a villain he's supposed to be. But beyond that, I don't really have anything.
The problem with Billy for me was he looked exactly like the lead singer of Everclear, and there was nothing. Every time I looked at him, I just saw the lead singer of Everclear.
It is crazy, guys.
And you had not seen the lead singer of Everclear, and I showed you a picture, and it was
It's the same
insane.
guy.
Soul patch, the whole bit. It was crazy how similar he looked to the lead singer of Everclear. But I also agree with you, Alonso. They needed they wanted like a snarling villain. You know what I mean? Like it's, custody is so complicated. And so it feels like they created hoops to make this perfect character to be a villain that also would somehow get custody, but not custody enough to where it couldn't be challenged by Tom Cavanaugh's and Shankman's characters. Like that, I think that is the one they kind of painted themselves into a corner there. And then that character is just like all the bad stuff. And then we'll make it make sense. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. Yeah. But also the lead singer of Everclear saying "Father of Mine,"
Father of Mine.
Doggo.
I have two. One, the kids at the beginning of this movie turn on Eric so quick. Eric blows off one kid, and I guess this kid, who was a mega fan of his, I guess spreads it around to all the other kids that are there for this practice that Eric is mean. And so a group of kids go down to the glass and start banging out and yelling, "You suck! You suck!" And there's not an adult in sight that's maybe like, "Hey, let's break it down a little bit." It's not like a full game where there's like an opposing team and you go down there and you're yelling. This is their practice. This team's practice, the Toronto Maple Balls, their practice.
Maple Bowls.
And nobody is trying to stop these kids from just heckling one of the people for the team. It's their practice.
Yeah.
It felt like it got out of hand quick. And that's
Bran, when your kids are a little older and you have to chaperone a field trip and you see what their classmates are like, I think you're going to call this one back.
I'm going to tell them to pipe down. Yeah. Be kind.
Kids be crazy.
Be kind. Second, there is a scene where they walk in and Scott has just a bunch of socks.
Yeah,
and
dozens of socks.
Yeah. And like, I couldn't find that many socks in my house. I don't know where socks go.
And this could be just a Bran and me problem. We're watching this movie together, and if you asked me to try to come to you with 24 socks,
I couldn't do it.
There's just no world unless you accept children's socks. If you asked me to come with 24 socks for me, you'd have to let me time travel. There's just no way.
The hardest part of every day for me is socks. And it's like, what am I going to do today? How am I going to handle this? And Scott, he can.
I get it. Some people are better with socks than we are.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're not. We're on the one end of the spectrum. He has 24, at least 36 loose leaf crude length socks.
Matches.
Full matches. He could get at the drop of a hat. That's crazy.
Is this an us problem, Alonso?
Come Christmas, y'all know what to do. Brandon and Dan clearly need some socks.
Guys, I love the socks, but just know they're gonna become unmatched pretty quickly.
I don't have that many socks personally, although I wear the same shoes every day. Like there are my brethren who have the many shoes, and I just like. I have my New Balances. I have some dressier ones that I get trotted out a couple times a year, and that's it. But socks, I do okay. And I'm going to say that because there's two adult men in the house.
Yeah.
That's why. That's
true. But I thought through that, but I was still like, if there's 24 just at the ready, that's
two adult men who are not y'all.
That's true. They wear suits every day. That's fair.
There was definitely some organization at a house that I'm not comfortable with, because it's very organized, and I'm like, I don't fit in here.
Alonso, did you break out those New Balances for the opera?
I like to be comfortable, and I knew I was going to be there for a while, so yes.
Yeah, you did. That's what I'm talking about.
It's his birthday, and he'll New Balance if he wants to.
That's exactly right.
Dano?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't know what they're doing in elementary school classrooms in Canada, but when you do read aloud in the class, when you do popcorn reading, it can't be about a dog dying. I am sorry. You can't do that. No, that's time for some happy-go-lucky stuff right there. That's time for the all rise, skipping through the daisies. You cannot have a dog dying and kids read it out loud at 8 years old. No. That is Scott's reaction there is just more common than I think the movie is depicting. Like, you know, I remember watching Where the Red Fern Grows and just being a mess. I can't imagine reading it aloud in class. Like, are you kidding me right now? That's crazy. Get your act together, elementary schools.
All right, everybody. Final chapter. Old Yeller. Let's do it.
Exactly. Old Yeller. And then Pa said, no, you got to shoot him. And you got 9-year-olds and they're like, all right, I guess I'll read it. All right, Pa, I'll shoot the dog. He was a good yeller. Next, I know that Eric McNally, Tom Cavanaugh's character, is famous. I know that. It is still not realistic or not weird for people that meet him to just say, oh, you're Eric McNally, the hockey player. Can I tell you 3 facts about you? That happens in this movie all the time. He's like, you're Eric McNally, the pro hockey player. And then you were really good. You used to really fight a lot. And then you got kicked out of that one game. Like, I've seen other movies with professional athletes where they're like, oh, game 7, how could you? That's not what happens here. This movie uses Tom Cavanaugh's character meeting people as a way to give us backstory through like, what are other 3 things about Eric that we might need to know? And then that's all I got. That's I didn't have anything else. Yeah.
You're on TV now.
Yeah.
It's time for.
And now you do news for this one channel at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Fun fact, one of the guys who says that to him, the dude in the clothing store, it plays the hockey coach on Letterkenny.
Oh, yeah, he does. You're right. I knew he looked familiar.
Canada's finest, Letterkenny.
That's right.
Let's get to what the Hallmark story wonder what could have been. Maybe helping us with clarity questions we still have. What are we still wondering about after watching this movie? I'll start with you, Alonso.
Well, a thing I find fascinating about this that I discovered while reading the wiki page is that apparently this was the first time the NHL granted permission to one of its logos for a queer indie movie.
Wow.
So the Maple Leafs are called the Maple Leafs or the Maple Bowls, as you wish,
if you will.
And you know, they got to use the logos and the whole thing, and not all the fans were loving that at the time. So that's kind of a big deal. And I would love to know, like, how would that roll in 2025? Like, it seems right now we're in this sort of tenuous moment where corporations who used to be our bestest friends and sponsoring our parades and, you know, putting out rainbow t-shirts every June are now suddenly real quiet. And so I'm just wondering if the Leafs would be as magnanimous now as they were then.
We clocked that early. You said that immediately when when we saw the Maple Leaf sign. Yeah.
No, I was like surprised to see that's a real hockey team, and then the network that he works for is the Real Sports Network for Canada as SCN or whatever. So it was interesting that they got that for this movie, which was cool. I just wanted, you know, sometimes you take up interests that your kids have and you want to encourage them. I want to know if maybe they have relaxed. Did they end up relaxing on the Christmas music in October rule? You know, like maybe they.
It's a tough love situation, Brady.
No, I think sometimes you just gotta
maybe
give
in your room only, Scott.
If you have a kid who's really loves Christmas and he wants to watch Christmas movies all year, maybe you just let him watch Christmas movies all year.
My rule, my kids. I have a child.
I know. I'm looking right at you.
And we have a couple of exceptions to the Christmas rule.
Yes, you do.
If you are sick, you're real sick, you stay home from school, you can watch Christmas movies all day. That's the thing we do. We watch Elf. Every time my kid is sick, my oldest is sick, he knows he's turning on Elf and he picks other Christmas movies. That's what he does. And then occasionally, on a very rare occasion, he'll ask, we do a thing where we alternate who gets to pick a song. So we're all four riding, like Jay picks, Ray picks, Sarah picks, I pick, and we go in order. Jay will always try to throw in a Christmas song. Like he'll always just be like, what about Reggie the Christmas Hamster by Perry Grip, a classic.
A classic movie.
Every now and then I will indulge in that.
Song.
I don't have a rule for it, but every now and then I'm like, you know what? The kid needs a Christmas song. But most of the time I say, no, that's a Christmas song.
And I'm out here grinding, y'all. This past week, I had Christmas music going in my house, and my oldest was like, why are we listening to this?
That's right. Because he gets it.
It's not Christmas.
He understands. He gets it.
I was pretty sad. And I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep putting in the work. You gotta introduce it to them, and then you gotta let them make their own choices. You know, and you gotta be okay
Sometimes
with
Christmas finds you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What I'm hearing is there's an heir to the podcast empire in Dan's house.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Not in Brand's.
That's right, and it's technically my eldest, so you know it makes sense.
Dano.
Did he make Eric McNally's ringtone for all calls King Wenceslas?
Yes.
Why? Like, that's a big, like, when Scott is calling and it's King Wenceslas and he keeps being like, what are we doing? Like, I get that. But Scott went in and said, because at that point in 2007, you could make a ringtone for every person. That was a big thing back then. Scott just was like, that seems mean-spirited. Like, that seems like he's really trying to get under your skin. It would have made sense if he did it just for Scott. To do it for every call seemed a little bit much to me. And I was curious.
I would agree with you if Scott had a phone.
That's true.
But
Scott's
he doesn't.
too young
Like,
to have a
these
phone.
are calls from school and
You're
stuff.
right.
So I think he just like, well, everybody should have this.
Yeah.
And because, I think kids, as y'all have no doubt encountered, understand technology better than their parents do. So if they can go in and like fix something, good luck fixing this back.
Yeah,
I will
it
say,
seems
if you're
like Scott should have
if
done all of them, like all different carols for different people. That would have been fun. That would have been a fun bit.
If you're trying to get your adult, your guardian to love Christmas music like you, maybe don't start with Good King Wenceslas. That's all.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't start with that one, which is already a polarizing Christmas tune. We did, everybody. Congratulations to us and happy birthday to Alonso.
That's right.
Thanks.
We love this guy. We love this
do.
guy. We love him so much. We're moving into Fridays for Festive Fridays,
where the players play.
That's exactly right. Where the players play. And we are going to be, kicking off the Festive Fridays by, blowing the dust off the BET Plus app, and which we all have.
We all have it.
We've watched many of
We
BET
did not
Plus.
get another free trial. There's no way we would do that.
No.
I watched this. We watched Breakfast with Scott on Here TV. I got a free trial of Here, so and it's a streaming service, and we got a free trial and watched it there.
It's also on Tubi with ads.
Yes. We did the no ads.
That's
how we operate. All right. Sorry. The movie is Queens of Christmas.
Queens of Christmas.
It is.
Queens of Christmas. BT Plus will come on back for that next
It's a
week.
sequel to Lords of Dogtown.
Yeah. It's gonna be a lot of fun to tell them first to wish you a Merry Christmas and a
Deck
Happy
the Hallmark's a
Birthday.
Bramble Jam podcast is produced by Aaron Shea. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.